All right, today we're going to tear into the arsenal of a true madman. We're taking a deep dive into the terrifying new philosophical weapons that Derwille has integrated into his toolkit. And this isn't just about adding a few new powers. No, this is a fundamental shift, a synthesis of divine madness and a form of necromancy that is just chillingly logical.
But, to really get what's happening now, we have to go back to where this all started. And it all boils down to this one massive question. How does a 19th century philosopher, literally trapped in a failing body, manage to ascend to godhood? The answer to that is the bedrock for the entire reality-bending arsenal we're about to unpack.
So, first up in our explainer, we have to talk about the source of all this incredible power. And that is the story, the parable of Wotan, the Mad Rune King. Now, this isn't just some dusty old backstory. It's the mythological and, frankly, the energetic foundation for everything Derwille can now do.
Okay, so this right here maps out the entire terrifying transformation. It all starts with Friedrich, right? A guy dreaming of the Übermensch, the Overman, while his own body is just giving out on him. Then, step 2, you see humanity's sheer arrogance with Project Zarathustra. They thought they could cage his will to power with a blast of gamma radiation. But instead of breaking him, he just laughs. He embraces it, utters that key phrase, and is reborn as Wotan, the Overman made real, a god who chooses his own terrible freedom.
And this is the absolute key right here. They completely fundamentally misunderstood what they were messing with. Project Zarathustra saw the will to power as just another resource, something they could control and leash to fight their own stupid wars. They could not have been more wrong. They weren't building a super soldier. They were midwifing a god.
And this quote, man, it just perfectly captures Wotan's ultimate realization. He saw that reality itself isn't solid. It's a text, a code written in pure force. For any normal human mind, even trying to perceive that code would drive you insane. But for him, the Overman, the ability to write in that code, well, that was the very definition of becoming a god. And then, he just vanished, leaving behind his notes, the forbidden texts that were going to change everything. Okay, so that's the myth, the origin story. Now, let's see how this insane power actually gets used in the present day. We're shifting from the legend to the practical and honestly chilling application. See, Derwille gets his hands on these forbidden texts, but he doesn't come at them like a wizard or some mystic. No, he approaches them like a scholar, a linguist, which somehow makes it all even more terrifying.
For Derwille, this philosophical idea right here, it's basically the Rosetta Stone. He looks at Wotan's madness and doesn't see insanity. He sees a higher form of grammar, a divine syntax. Because if language truly is the house that reality lives in, well, then a divine language can build a whole new house. It can literally rewrite reality. And that is exactly what he plans to do.
So how does he actually do it? Well, this breaks it down pretty clearly. He isn't casting spells, he's writing. His Shizokane isn't a wand, it's a stylus. He carves these ancient Futhark runes not onto a rock, but into the very air around him, what his philosophy calls the not I. And these runes, they act like true names, linguistic commands so powerful they just override the local laws of physics. And the whole thing is powered by this echo of Wotan's gamma-fueled birth. It's wild.
And this is where it gets absolutely nuts. Just look at the results. With Thurisaz, he doesn't break a wall, he writes a new reality where the wall was never even a barrier to begin with. It just ceases to be an obstacle. With Aiza, he doesn't freeze things, he linguistically deletes the very concept of motion from a patch of space, creating a zone of perfect, eerie stillness. And Ansu's, that's not just a loud noise, it's a primal word that bypasses your ears and hits your conscience directly. This is language as the ultimate weapon.
But believe it or not, that's only half the story. That's just one half of his new arsenal. So now let's get into his second power system. And I want to be really clear. This is not your Dungeons & Dragons raise a skeleton kind of necromancy. Oh no, this is something way more disturbing, a practice that's rooted entirely in philosophy.
So what are we talking about? It's called ontological necromancy. And yeah, you gotta forget everything you know about raising the dead. This is all about manipulating the very nature of what it means to exist and not exist. In this worldview, shadows aren't just an absence of light. They are the not I, the dark, repressed side of reality, actually given physical form.
This chart really lays it all out, plain and simple. On the left, you've got your vulgar necromancy. It's just biology, right? You reanimate a corpse, you get a mindless zombie. But on the right, that's Dervilla style. The source is philosophy. The method is manipulating shadows and pure will. And the result isn't a zombie, it's a puppet of the dialectic. A philosophical golem, animated by cold, hard logic.
So how does this shadow play actually work in a fight? Well, for defense, you've got the Schopenhauerian shroud. And get this, he literally pulls his own shadow up off the ground and wraps it around himself like a cloak. The effect is he enters a state of absolute nothingness. He becomes a temporary void in reality. You can't hit what isn't there, so attacks just pass right through him. He has literally negated his own existence to become perfectly invulnerable.
Okay, so that's his defense. What about his attack? It's called the Umbral Guillotine, and it is just as nasty as it sounds. He actually detaches his own sentient shadow, the Ali Mephistopheles, and sends it slithering across the floor to attack his opponent's shadow. Because of this sympathetic link everyone has with their shadow, any damage done to the shadow is instantly transferred to the physical body. It completely bypasses armor, shields, everything. It's a metaphysical strike.
And finally, of course, we have to talk about his version of raising the dead. He uses his own blood, but not to give a soul back to a body. No, he uses it to impose his own consciousness, his will, into an empty vessel. What you get is the perfect soldier, a puppet of the dialectic. It moves with cold logic, it follows his commands to the letter, and it feels absolutely no pain, because, well, there's no self in there to feel it. It's just a walking, soulless argument in physical form.
All right, so you've got the reality-warping language on one side and the shadow-bending necromancy on the other. What happens when you put them together? You get the Mad Architect. This synthesis is what transforms Dervelle into something else. Something that wields both divine, untamed chaos, and unshakable logic as weapons.
And here it is, the full, terrifying loadout. In one hand, he's got the Schizocane, ready to rewrite the laws of physics with Wotan's chaotic runes. And with the other, he uses his precise, logical Fichtian grip to command shadows and the dead. It's this perfect, horrifying combination of the Mad Rune King's raw, untamed power and the cold, calculated logic of German idealism.
And that just leaves us with one final, pretty terrifying question to think about. When you become a being like this, a mad architect who can unmake the world with a word and command the very concept of nothingness with a thought, what's left? What moral code, what physical law, what God is there left for you to obey? The answer, of course, is absolutely nothing.